Good morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you're watching this, everybody. This is lesson 96. I'm not doing the first portion with the whole estimating the angles thing. Basically, their whole idea is that a circle is 360 degrees, and if there's 12 numbers on a clock, 360 divided by 12 is 30 degrees in between each number. So you can kind of estimate how many degrees it is based on how far apart they are, how many numbers apart they are. That's the whole idea. I'm not going to make you do examples on it either. I really just want to focus on the new concept of the distributive property. We've already talked about distributive property with numbers, but now we're kind of throwing in letters because algebra, that's something we're doing. So the whole idea here is parentheses means multiply. So whatever number is in front or letter, multiply by both terms, not just the first term. So it's A times B plus A times C because we multiply the A by both. And this is super, super important. The sign goes with the term. You can't think of it as plus or minus as add or subtract. We have to think of them as positive and negative, because if we have a minus 2, that's a negative 2. So we have to make sure that negative stays with the 2. Or a positive 3. It's not just plus 3, it's a positive 3, and that number, positive stays with the 3. And I'll show you what that means. So example 2 is where we start the examples of these kinds of problems. So we take the 2 and we multiply by the x. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times negative 3, because that's a negative. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. And that's our answer. Now, when we go over to letter B, this negative goes with the 2. So when we multiply negative 2 times x, we come up with negative 2x. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. Okay, since that was a positive 3, so they're opposite signs, so you get a negative. So make sure you're just being meticulous with the signs. Now over here, negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6. Okay, because they're both negative when you multiply them. So you can't just say, oh, that's minus 3. They're both negatives when you multiply. So make sure you take the sign. And then over here, x times x, we can't just come up with a random number for that. X times x is x squared. Just like 5 times 5 is 5 squared, 7 times 7 is 7 squared, x times x is x squared. We just don't have a number value to put in for that yet. And then x times negative 3, it's not x minus 3, it's x times negative 3, it's negative 3x. Okay, so when we distribute those numbers or letters, you have to do it to both, and we're multiplying because there's parentheses. Which brings me to example 3. We're supposed to simplify. That means get it in its simplest form. Okay, x squared plus 2x plus 3, x minus 2. Okay, so that's in parentheses. So the very first thing we do is parentheses. We know that, right? Well, I can't put x and minus 2 together. Sometimes it's like a 5 plus 3 in the parentheses, so you just add them. Well, this time I have to take my positive 3 and multiply by both. Okay, so 3x, positive 3x. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. Okay, but we're not done. We need to make sure we indicate that it's a positive 3x, so we know it's another term. Okay, the only things we can put together are the x's, because that's the only thing that matches. You can't put x squareds with x's because x squareds are different, right? You can only put x's with x's, numbers with numbers, squareds with squareds, cubes with cubes. It's very separate. You gotta separate those terms. So 2x, this is a positive 2x and a positive 3x, 5x, and then just keep everything else. And that's as simple as we can make it. We can't make it any simpler. We can't decide, well, 5 minus 6 is negative 1. We can't do that because we can't put these together. So when it says to simplify, you might be looking at it like that's not very simple, but it's simpler than up here, right? It's just as much as you can. And that brings us to example 4. X squared plus 2x minus 3, and then you have an x minus 2. Now we take the negative when we multiply. negative 3x, and negative 3 times negative 2, positive 6. Keep the other stuff, and all we can put together again are the x's. So we have a positive 2x and a negative 3x. So all we're doing is just doing 2 minus 3, okay? And we should know that's negative 1. Keep the x squared and keep the 6. And that's all you can do. So when you're simplifying, don't think you have to come down to one number or one letter. You just do as much as you can and then you leave it, because you're not going to break the laws of algebra to make it look better, okay? And so that's all of the examples in the book. I wanted to do one of the practice set problems with you to show you how this works with all letters. Now we saw up here that with all letters, if it's multiplied, just put them right next to each other, right? Because that means multiply. And you can't combine those letters together and get a random number because we don't know the values. But I'm going to do letter D in the practice set to show you. Okay, so use your same ideas of positive and negative numbers and combining them. X times x is x squared. X times negative y is negative xy. Yes, it's okay to write negative yx. It's just pretty typical to put them in alphabetical order when we're doing stuff like this, okay? So x squared minus xy, and that's all you can do. And then there's another one where there's like a negative x in front. I'm not going to do it for you, or I think it's a 2. I'm not going to do it for you. Just remember, negative times positive, negative times negative. Remember what to do with your signs. And that is all there is to that lesson. Just do your best on the practice set, and I will talk to you later.